Why would people who are so obviously wholly unfit to be parents have 13 children and treat them in such a diabolical manner?
Piers, I don't know. It really makes us so angry. We want to just vomit. That's why we went to California last week, because we had to see them face to face and see what was like. Is one a psychopath? Like I don't even know. I mean,
so you went
Piers,
to see you went to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And what was that encounter like? What questions did you ask? What answers did you get?
Well, legally, I found out we can't talk exactly what they said, but we can tell you what
we saw
and
demeanor and stuff.
Yeah, and demeanor and stuff, like what I saw is Louise was really living in a la-la land. Like, she didn't do nothing wrong, and she's going to be out, and we're going to play board games again, and just kind of like that kind of attitude. Like, she was living where David was broken. He knew that he had messed up, and he was broken. That's what we gathered. I mean, that wasn't...
Well, if I can even unpack that just a little bit more, because when we went and saw Louise, we walked out of there and we were like, oh my gosh, like what in the world are we seeing? Like, is her brain, like, is she just totally insane, or like what in the world? And we were like, okay, we're gonna see David, and maybe, was it him? And then we went and saw David, and then he was just sobbing. I mean, he sobbed like where his shoulders would shake up and down, right? And when mentioned about his parents and his brother and not seeing them, and he had said to Elizabeth, like, you and I've had things in the past, and I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. And so, and then I just, told him, I said, I don't know all the things that you've done. And he says, well, it'll come out. And I said, but, you have a choice to take responsibility for what you're doing. I kind of feel like we took him to church because we weren't going to let him.
When you actually when you get into the details of what they did to these children, they shackled them, they beat them, strangled them, tried to strangle them. The kids were found tied to beds with chains and padlocks in dark, foul-smelling rooms. They were undernourished. The oldest victim, a 29-year-old girl, weighed just 82 pounds. I mean, this is torture that they put these kids through.
Right now, like, that makes my heart hurt. It just...
Right. I mean, do you think...
And that's why we're standing in the gap for these kids.
But from your encounter with these parents, who you obviously have known for a long time, without realising perhaps the full horror of what they were now committing, but do you think they have any appreciation of the scale of what they've done to these kids?
I don't know if Louise does.
I don't think Louise does. I think David
is starting
to realize. And
so we don't know, was he crying because he got caught? Is he crying because he's remorseful? Is he crying because he's separated from Louise? We don't really know. Louise, on the other hand, I hope to God they're going to give a psychological evaluation. I mean, we're sitting here going, what in the world? But I can tell you, when we went to the house in California, in Paris, on the front stoop was a snake statue. And I live in North Carolina, and like I have angels and bunnies, and I do like life coaching and stuff. And so I'm like, a snake, and it was like coiled up like a rattlesnake with a viper. And actually that made us research, like, what is that? So we're also trying to figure out, like, did they get themselves involved in some evil things? Something.
Final question.
To this level.
Final question for you both. Have you had any contact with these kids? Do you know how they're doing?
We haven't had any contact with the kids. They're not letting anybody. We've tried since the news broke. I have tried to get visits, phone calls, something. But they do keep in touch with us, letting us know how the children are, and the children are doing great.
The guardian attorney for the older children has been wonderful in talking to us. And we actually sat down with them face to face and we delivered some presents. But they said that the case had been even more locked down in comparison to before, because we had been given the roadmap that we'd possibly see them in April. But that was just a speculation, depending on if they testified.
Yeah.
But then when we were there last week, he said he didn't know.
Okay, well, listen, it's a horrifying story, and I can tell that you guys are as horrified as family members as we all were when we heard about this, and it's just one of those inexplicable things. Why people would keep having children and treat them in this despicable manner is beyond any comprehension to anyone who's got kids.
37 charges against them.
And that's why Elizabeth and I stand in hope. We really, really do. I mean, we write books on hope and resilience and so forth. We even have something coming out on Thursday because we are both victims of child abuse. And when this came out, we cried because we were like, here we're helping other strangers and we didn't even know it was happening in our family. So we have no choice to talk to media like y'all because we want to stand forward for other people to have the courage to come forward.
Okay, well, Tricia,
because that's
Elizabeth,
the only way it can change.
Well, listen, thank you both very much indeed for joining us. We appreciate it.